Welcome back to Your Average Witch. In this episode, we meet spiritual crafter, mover, and shaker, world-class dancer Amy Sigil. Amy repeatedly blows my mind in this episode with her explanation of why she doesn't claim the term witch, where the sigils on her fence came from, and shares a story about how her besom Annabelle asked to go with her on a year-long road trip to just be a broom. Now let's get to the stories. Hello, Amy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Please introduce yourself to the listeners and let them know who you are and what you do and where they can find you.
Hi, my name is Amy Sigil, and I am a mover, and I am also a movement coach. And you can find me at everything Amy Sigil, amysigil.com, Amy Sigil Facebook, Amy Sigil Instagram, and a really weak game of Amy Sigil TikTok.
I can't even deal with TikTok.
I love it so much, but I'm not in yet.
I don't know. I like watching it, and I get stuck in a scroll of watching ridiculousness, but I can't. I don't want to take the time to learn it.
Yeah, I'm not a creator yet, but I do find TikTok to be such an incredible home for marginalized people, for young people, and I really, really love the platform.
It's really fun.
It's really fun.
Now, unlike everyone else that I've had on the show, well, except for one person who was new and I didn't expect them to say they didn't think they were a witch. You don't call yourself a witch.
I do not call myself a witch right now.
What does it mean to you to be a witch, and why don't you feel like you are one? And why did you agree to be on the show, even though I said it's about witches? And how do you feel about witchcraft?
I'm so excited. Kim, I would say yes to anything that you asked me to do.
Aww.
And that was one of my inspirations for doing this. And also, I've got a lot of practice with using the term witch and witchcraft. And I have considered myself a witch many times in my life. And right now, I consider myself witchy with a Y at the end. And let me tell you, I'm having some identity crisis with the term witch. I actually looked up the definition of witch just this morning because I was excited to have this conversation. And you caught me at a really interesting time in my spiritual practice because I have no idea who I am and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I have always had a lot of confidence in my witchy practices. And these last 2 years, I've been kind of thrown for a loop. So if you look up the definition of witch, it is a woman with magical powers. It actually also says oftentimes wearing pointy hats and pointy shoes.
Wow.
I know, it's really great. But when it's summed up, it's a woman with magical powers. Do I consider myself a woman with magical powers? I do, but I'm having a hard time. I have young people in my life, a 24-year-old, a 26-year-old, my grown children and grandchildren to follow that. And I've been really struggling with the binary right now. And I've been reading a lot, listening a lot, and talking a lot with the younger people in my life. And witch has a very binary call to it. Do I consider myself a woman? This is such an interesting conversation because something different has arisen with the young people. And I am a old queer. I'm almost 50 years old. I've been in the queer community for a really long time. And when we talk non-binary, we've been talking for the last 40 plus years about the third sex. We've been talking about male, female, and the third sex, more of an androgynous person. And my partner, Raven, is super androgynous. And I would have always considered them they and non binary. But there's a new conversation that's arising And it's really showing me how binary I am, and not in my person, but in my thinking of who I think is a woman, who I think is a man, and who I think of as a they, which in my own training, I would consider someone who fell in between these two extremes of women and men. But talking to the young people in my life, plum and tangerine mostly, what I'm hearing is that to remove the binary, we all have to embrace they. And this is interesting to me because it kind of I get scared of that because I don't want to take away the struggles of a person who is living as a non-binary person. And I see myself as very comfortable in my female body, very comfortable being gendered as a female, and very comfortable with where I sit in the gender spectrum. And so I want to like reserve this right for people who don't sit as comfortably, who don't pass, quote unquote, as well as I do. So I've been afraid to be like, let's use they, even for myself, because I feel comfortable. But what's arising in this is this whole new conversation of why are we not all of them? Even someone like me, but I know people who have a different struggle. So it's been difficult for me. So one of the reasons why I've been reluctant to use the word witch is because it is a very binary way to practice magic. And a witch is thought of as a woman. And I don't know if I accept that fully in my spiritual practice specifically. So this has been interesting for me. And also, the last 2 years, I have been on a huge journey of anti racism, anti colonialism, and cultural appropriation. I'm taking a look at my witchcraft practice and myself as a witch, and I am confused on whether this is who I am. So I've removed witch as a label for myself, and I have gone with no labels right now, except for that I can say that I do feel extremely witchy. And sometimes it is easy for me to fall into a woman with magical powers. But I don't think that's all that we are. And perhaps that label in the future might limit me. Does that make sense?
Yes. Holy crap.
And that's where I'm sitting right now.
Holy crap. This is the most unexpected turn. Wow. Wow. I want everyone in the world to hear that entire statement.
And I'm trying to sit quietly in that right now, and I'm trying to sit for a duration of time before I completely absorb or denounce or anything. I'm just really trying to sit with those ideas of what a witch is.
Huh.
But I can fall into witch real quick.
Now I have so many other questions for other people.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait to go have this discussion now. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for this to come out so everyone can hear it and we can start talking about it. Holy crap. Thank you.
Yes.
So, are you okay with the term witchcraft then?
I am also definitely assessing the word witchcraft. I am all about craft. I feel crafty in my spiritualism. I feel crafty in my person, and I love the word craft. But I am trying to sit with the word witch right now. But craft rings every bell in my body.
I'm asking because is there a term you'd prefer I use when I ask these questions?
I like magic craft. I like spiritual craft. I'm kind of rolling, like I said, I'm rolling away a little bit from the term witch, but I am definitely sold on craft right now.
Okay.
Spiritual craft rings true to me in a lot of ways because then it puts it in a specific box for me. I mean, especially as an artist, we have crafts in so many ways in our life that if I'm talking about my spiritual craft, then I feel like it is working with my spirit specifically and also being crafty as fuck. And I am quite
Okay.
crafty in my spiritual practice.
Now, when I say spiritual craft, just going to use that instead of what I have written then, and that's what I'm talking about.
Love it. I'm in.
Okay, so with this spiritual craft, do you have a family history of it or any stories from childhood where you think back and think, that's what that was?
Yes, and really very interesting for myself. My dad is a preacher.
My
And my
granddad
mom
was.
and my mom is the preacher's wife in
Oh,
all aspects of this. My mom has played the organ and piano for her church since she was 9 years old. And she's 74 now, and she's played at so many churches. So I've grown up with a lot of religion. There is no, I can almost say that there is absolutely no history of a spiritual craft outside of Christianity for multitudes and multitudes of generations before me. I know no spiritual crafters in my family. I am definitely the first or long forgotten spiritual crafter in the family. I have no history, no stories, nothing passed down to me but white colonialized Christianity. So for me, spiritual craft, oh, and I hate to say it, but it's a beautiful thing. It's a rebellious practice for me.
good.
It's a rebellious practice for me. And every time I am feeling rebellious, I always go to my spiritual craft. It's very interesting, but it was a way for me to break away from Christianity as a structure, to make my way on my own path, to say, no, I'm not going to church on Sunday. So, spiritual craft for me is not handed down, but it's been a pathway of literal rebellion against the systems that I've been raised with.
I just realized what people might not even know why I asked you. I mean, you might not even know why I asked you to be on the show. When you started building your new studio, the outdoor
Yeah,
studio,
the temple.
you made sigils and you put sigils on the fence
Yes.
that are gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I'm so in love. It's the like the best art project I've done in the last few years.
And in fact, when I saw them, one, I yelled at my husband about it. 'Cause if I'm excited in any way, I yell at him. And I actually posted in my favorite group, which is the Witch Bitch Amateur Hour podcast comment group. I said, I think my idol might be a witch. I didn't say who you were because it's not their business necessarily, all this stuff. I just share things I'm excited with, like vaguely a lot of the time, and they accept that.
I love it.
But that's what brought it on. So people should go to your Instagram and look at those amazing sigils.
Well, I have to tell you the story about these sigils because this
Oh, yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
so magical. So I moved to a new piece of property and I'm up in a town called Redding, California. And I am about a mile and a half from the Wintu Pit River and Yana Tribe Casino. And you can't really call it a reservation because in the 1940s they were robbed of their tribal federal um, official status, and they have a very small part of land, but the land that I live on was the Wintu land. So when I moved here, the backyard is very specific. And there is some crazy energy that floats around this backyard. And granted, I came from Midtown Sacramento, living on 16th and K, so I haven't had my feet in the dirt for a really long time. I've been mostly in the dance studio. And, then you're talking about like wood floor, splung floor, this floor, that floor. I mean, I'm just like so many layers from the ground. So I was really affected by this backyard, and I started having visions of these symbols. I did not draw these. They literally came out of my hands onto these pieces of paper, and I was drawing these symbols. I had no idea why I was drawing them. And then I saw them on the fence. It rained and the fence was getting wet, except for this protection symbol that I already drew. I saw it on the fence and I was like, whoa, I'm going to paint these sigils on this fence. They had to go in a specific order, and I'm quite haphazard in my craft. I'm not so I don't usually see things before they happen. I usually find them in the process or find them in retrospect. So I painted these symbols along the fence, and I love them. I love them so much. I love them so much. It took me an entire summer. It was so amazing. It was so special. So fast forward, I have a friend who is a seriously witchy woman. I would even call her a witch, but she rolls through and she asked if she could stop by. We were going to visit. We're going to hang out in the backyard because it's during COVID. We can get a little bit more distance. We're having coffee in the backyard. And my friend says, Amy, there are 5 indigenous murdered children buried in your backyard. They are right here. They are from 2 different mothers. They were hidden on your property before any of this was fenced off, and they were found and they were murdered by a group of white men. In this group, there was a priest who buried them very hastily with no burial rights. They are not unwell, but they need their burial rights. And here's right where the children are. And the children are on the fence with all of these sigils. And I was kind of blown away. It was not a generic download. It was not like there is blood on this ground. It was like there are 5 children. This is the age. These are the mothers. And my friend even said that the mothers were actually close by, but there's some weird property divide that's happening. And I actually live on this canal, which has this weird property divide. So my friend says, why do you think that you were painting those sigils? I said, I don't know. I don't know. And my friend says, you are attempting to do burial rites for these children and you have no idea what you're doing. And this is what the symbols are. And the symbols are very interesting. It's protection, it's health. There's love. There's a funnel of fortune. It's just really kind of outside of my usual practice. And my friend is like, "You're trying to do burial rites for these children." So I was blown away by this, and I actually ended up contacting a Wintu man named Ted, who was very, very helpful for me and passed along a sacred sun root that they use in this area. Kind of like you could compare it to sage, but it's called the sun root. It's on the top of Mount Lassen. And Ted sent me home with this sun root and told me to burn it for the children, make a special place for them, and tell them that it's from him. And so the sigils are not for me. I know they're not for me. I don't even think they're from me. That's not how I draw my sigils normally when I work with those. And I think that I know that they are for the children. So since then, I have made a beautiful space for the children, and I've been working, and little pieces have been coming to me for the children through these really special ways. And I've been feeling very, very, very connected with the backyard. Crazy.
Everything you're saying this whole time is blowing my mind.
It was a really unique experience. It was a really unique experience. And I'm very honored to be in the presence of these 5 children.
Wow. What would you say is your biggest motivator in your spiritual craft?
Rebellion. Rebellion is my biggest motivator in my spiritual craft. Anytime I want to fight or fight for, I automatically go to my craft, my spiritual craft. It's all about breaking things down for me. I don't think that everyone has so much rebellion in their spirituality, but because I don't have those ancestors, because I'm not so deeply connected to like the ways that weren't passed down to me, I find it an extremely rebellious practice. And usually when I am fighting or fighting for is when I get deep into my spiritual practice.
I think a lot of organized religions would try to press out any rebellion anybody had.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I do find a home in the craft for rebellion.
What is your biggest motivator in dance?
Oh, such a good question. What is my biggest motivator in dance? I think humans are my biggest motivator. I really love to bring movement into other people's lives. I don't show up as much for myself as I do for other people. I just started working out at the gym again after the pandemic. I mean, I guess we're still in it. I don't know what's going on, but literally 2 weeks ago
Lord.
I'm going back to the gym. I'm going back to the gym and I love the gym. I love working out. It's been 2 years since I went to the gym. So I'm like, I'm going to go back to the gym. And while I was there, the first day I went over to Raven, my partner's aunt and uncles, and they are 76 years old. And Uncle Irv is like, oh, I would just love to go to the gym. And I say, come to the gym. Irv, meet me at the gym. So Irv meets me at the gym the next day. And all of a sudden, I'm going to the gym every day because 76-year-old Uncle Irv is there. So I really love bringing movement into other people's life, especially non-movers. I mean, we're all movers, but especially people that don't know that they're movers. Like those are the most special times. So I think humans are really, I would like to say that, it's love and anger and emotions that drive me to the dance floor, but it's not, it's someone else saying they want to move. And then I have that passion and that motivation. And I really love bringing movement to humans.
Send somebody like that to chase me to the gym. I'm going, but I'm so reluctant.
Yeah, it's been really helpful to have Uncle Irv showing up for me. He's like, "So we're going Monday through Thursdays." I'm like, "Yeah,
Ah,
we're
send
going."
me an Uncle Irv.
Yes, you need an Uncle Irv. He's been so special. I actually just made an inspirational video about him that I'm going to send you the link to because he's so special.
Okay. Is it okay if I post it in show notes?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What was your first experience with spiritual craft?
My first experience was the Silver Raven Wolf books. And it's so funny to say because I think that Silver Ravenwolf was a gateway for a lot of cultural
Yeah.
creation. I'm sorry, Silver. But also it was a gateway for young white
Yep.
people.
That's why I know the name.
Yeah, especially young white, like even Christian people. It was a gateway. It was like reading that white fragility book that you find out later, like is written by a white woman and not exactly the work that you're supposed to do, but it was that gateway. And I think Silver Ravenwolf was the gateway for me. As embarrassing as it can be, it led to a lot of beautiful things. And I still hold a lot of respect for those books in my life specifically. Is that the path that I wish I would have taken with spiritual craft? No, it's not, but it is. And there's no way I can walk away from that right now. So it was Silver Ravenwolf, and it was me being like, what is the farthest thing from Christianity? Oh, witchcraft. That's the farthest thing. Turns out it's not the farthest thing. It is not the farthest thing from Christianity. But at the time when I'm like 17 years old, I left home at 16, and at 17 I was like, what is everything I can do to challenge this religious practice that I've been in? And it was witchcraft, and it was Silver Ravenwolf, and reading spells out of a book, and gathering oils and gathering herbs, and having my book open with a bookmark and doing like step by step
Yeah.
practice.
Well, mine isn't any better. It was Starhawk.
Oh, same. Same. I got my first broom from an amazing woman. Her name is Lady Luna in Loomis, California, and Lady Luna was everything that I wanted to be at that moment. And she had those brooms. Everybody has one. They're the circle ones with like the braided bottom with the natural tree trunk on it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at mine right now. I've had it for oh geez, when tangerines. I've had it for 26 years, and its name is Annabelle.
I
And
love when people name them.
I was so young. I think I was like 21 when I got it. And Annabelle's hysterical because Annabelle and I have done so much different kind of crazy work, from like intimate sex work with each other to sweeping out circles. And I went on a sabbatical in 2015 in a truck and trailer and just kind of gave up my life for a year and started traveling around. And Annabelle pretty much threw herself on the floor and said, I want to go and do trailer work. I just want to be a regular broom for a year. Just and I was like, I want to be a regular human for a year. And Annabelle was like, I want to be a regular broom. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So Annabelle came in the trailer with me and swept the trailer floor, this like supercharged, magical object, swept the trailer floor, swept the mat outside, just literally swept up everything and lived a regular broom life for 1 year. And now Annabelle is propped up against the hearth in the magical stature that she is. And I don't even know if she's a she or a he. I just am questioning everything.
Me too. I'm baffled by how much I don't even
I'm so
know
trained.
I don't know.
I'm so trained. You know what I mean? And I always thought of myself as like very rebellious and very queer and very special. And it turns out I'm not special at all. And that's a beautiful thing because that means there's work to be done.
What would you say is your best or worst spiritual craft experience?
Oh,
And
I,
to interpret those any way you want.
I have a great one. So I love the pendulum. I'm like go-to pendulum human. I just love it. I was with Raven and I was trying to decide. It was a super late gig night in San Francisco. And I was thinking, do I stay in San Francisco because I'm like so tired? Or do I drive across the bridge to San Rafael and stay on the other side so I don't have to deal with the morning traffic? And I'm like, oh, I wish I had my pendulum, but I didn't. But I had toenail clippers. So I attached the string to the toenail clippers. And you know how the toenail clippers goes like really skinny on one end?
Yeah, the
Put the
whole.
Yeah. So I put the string through there and I attempted to charge my magical toenail clippers. And I asked it where I should stay. And the toenail clippers said I should stay in San Francisco. It was indefinite yes. I was like, great, thank you so much. So I go to the San Francisco hotel at in the middle of the night, the entire hotel catches on fire. Like somebody lit their room on fire. The thing goes up like a box of matchsticks, and people are running, screaming, banging on the doors. We're trying to get our stuff, and we literally ran for our lives out of this hotel. And it was then that I realized that I feel like the toenail clippers has not been respected enough, has not been given enough credit for what it does. And I felt a little betrayed by my toenail clippers, which I still have this exact same pair.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I don't use it for clipping my toenails anymore. Instead, I have it on a
Oh.
gratitude shelf of other things that I'm extremely grateful for because I feel like perhaps there's a small vengeance between toenail clippers and humans. And I don't use them as a pendulum anymore, but they do have my utmost respect.
I'm going to look at my toenail clippers differently.
I know. I know. I do too. Every time. I'm like, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, I mean, who would have known? Who Raven always says, "Well, who would have known what happened at the other one? Maybe it would have been even worse at the other one." And I'm like, I don't know. This one kind of set me up. This one kind of set me up. Like it was kind of a wake up call, for real, from a dead sleep. So, That was actually kind of one of my craziest spiritual practices, was attempting to consult the toenail clippers for life decisions.
Note to self.
Note to self. Yeah, and like you said, I don't know if that's just like don't trust the toenail clippers, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Apologize and oil them real well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. A little bit more respect, maybe, for the object.
The job it does.
I have a favorite pendulum, and I was just talking to my favorite pendulum yesterday, asking it the same questions a million times. I don't know if you do that.
Oh,
It already told me it stopped working. It literally just sat there. And I was like, "I'm sorry." Okay. I like to ask it the same question like 20 times.
maybe that's why I don't do divination. I don't do divination because I don't know. I just don't.
It's hard to trust yourself. It's hard to trust yourself and like get the answer. And I'm constantly asking myself, like, who am I asking right now, really? Who am I asking? The universe? Am
Yeah,
I
and who's answering?
her? Yeah, yeah. What am I doing right now? But I still love the pendulum. But I did ask it the same question like 20 times yesterday, and it literally just sat there. Like, bitch.
Yeah, I don't want that. Or I'll get 7 different answers. I'll be like, I'm pretty sure I asked you the same way. So
Yeah. Or you're like, did I do that with my hand? Is that what I really want? Like,
I know I really want to do this.
yeah. That's what sometimes the pendulum tells me too. It tells me because it tells me the opposite. And I'm like, no, thank you.
What keeps you up at night?
Oh, it's been brought to my attention the last couple years by a very good friend of mine that I am a right fighter and that it's not doing anybody any good, including myself. But I am embarrassed to say that I want to do the right thing. And
Why?
I'm embarrassed because wanting to do the right thing is not the same thing as doing what's authentic and true to yourself. And this has been kind of glaring me in the face on social media lately because, I am a leader in my dance community. I've been trying to do the right thing when it comes to a lot of current events, and the current events that are presenting themselves right now, I have no skills to deal with. I have no skills and I have no knowledge. And I want to say the right thing. Like, when our community was going crazy, with Tribal Fest, I wanted to say
Oh.
the right thing. I wanted to say the right thing to heal the community. And I don't know how to deal with these things when it comes to racial injustice. I want to say the right thing. I want to like make the post that is like, yes, Amy, that's the right thing. I am not a professional in race theory. I am a white American fusion dancer, and I don't have these skills yet. So it's actually been very difficult for me to want to be a leader in the community, to want to say the right thing, and have no knowledge for the authentic response in myself. This comes up trying to talk about Palestine. Trying to talk
Mhm.
about Palestine as a dancer who loves Manat dances and is so inspired, but not having this skill set, not knowing enough, not having enough skills to really, I want to say again, to say the right thing, but that's not. So it was actually one of my friends who was just like, oh, Amy, you just want to say the right thing. You just want to say the right thing. And it's been a detriment to me the last couple years because I just want to make people feel at peace. I want to be a good leader. And sometimes at night when I go to sleep, I'm like constantly referencing myself against others. Like, did I say the right thing for that person? Did I do the right thing to make that person feel safe? And I'm not safe for everyone. I'm not safe for everyone. That's been a huge recognition for me, but I want to say the right thing. And sometimes I stay up at night trying to figure out what the right thing is to say. And I don't want to be a right fighter. I want to be an authentic fighter. I want people to be able to trust me, even if they're not safe with me. So I have to be really careful about what my motivation is for speaking out loud to the community. Yes.
Every time I talk to somebody who is not cishet, white, mayonnaise sandwich like myself, not that I'm het, but
Yeah. I understand.
I always have something new that I didn't know before and have to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say something and then you learn. And so I'm always like, no, Amy, you have to say something, because if you don't say anything, you just sit in this little bubble and no one's going to contradict you. No, you're not going to learn anything if you never say anything. But if you just try to say the right thing, it's not helpful. So I'm trying not to be a right fighter right now, but it's difficult because I feel like our community and my dance genre is suffering right now.
Yeah, it's going through a lot of shit.
It's going through a lot of shit, and I want to be that healer. Like, I don't know if it's my ego or the place I want to be. Like, I don't know, but I always want to be that healer. I always want to be the one who says the right thing and brings all of this love and whew, but that isn't necessarily my place all the time.
It's hard to step back.
Yes. Yes.
Do you consider yourself to be part of the witch community?
No. And I'm so sad to say that right now. I just got to do a podcast, a queer podcast, which was really fun. And I also feel the same way about the queer community. You know how sometimes you feel like you've been a queer so long that nobody even remembers that you're queer? And you feel like you've been witchy for so long that nobody even thinks that you're a witch, because all the new witches are coming up and all the new queer people are on the scene, and they're like cooler queers and up to date and like on fire. I'm not on fire anymore. And so I don't feel a part of the witch community. I know I'm not a part. I know I'm not a part. And it's not because of the community surrounding me. It's because of myself, and it's for a couple reasons. One is because I haven't inserted myself because I've been so busy with dance. And two, I think that I don't know if I can say that it's age or it's just the progression for me, but I am not I am not on fire right now. I am not seeking outside. Oh, how do I say this? I'm not seeking the community that I don't have anymore. I'm really developed in the community that I do have, which has been dance for so long. But it's not the community's fault that it's not that I'm not involved. I'm not involved because I haven't involved myself. And I think there's multiple reasons why that's happening right now. But I am sad to say that I am not part of a witches community right now, or a queer community right now.
I think you're smoldering, though.
Yes, maybe I'm at a smolder. Maybe I'm at a
Like, you had your flamey part.
yeah, do you remember?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Almost burned the whole fucking shit down. Yeah, I mean, that's where I think I compare it to too, is it's like when I was on fire, it involved so much. I mean, I was doing a lot of drugs. I am an addict, but at the time I was doing a lot of drugs. I was feeling so rebellious. I couldn't do anything but create and sit in all these communities, and I just felt like I was just aflame. And I don't know if it coincides. I'm the most sober I have ever been right now in my life, and I am also the less hot than I've ever been in my life. And who knows, chicken or the egg?
I'm the most sober, but I don't know if I'm the least hot.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I'm pretty chill right now in all of my ways. I am pretty chill. I'm missing it a little bit, but I also, like I said, there was so much drugs for me that was involved, a lot of heartache, a lot of destruction that I don't know if that's where I don't know if I want to go back, but I could use a little bit more heat, I think, in my life.
We need rest too,
Yeah, it's true. And I
and
couldn't keep
quiet.
up with myself. I could not keep up with myself.
What's your favorite memory of anything?
The first time I hitchhiked. I,
Really? That sounds terrifying to me.
I think it's my favorite. I could not stop smiling. I had a car when I was 16 years old. I got my driver's license on my birthday. My parents, we lived way out in the country, so you couldn't get anywhere without a car. It wasn't like you could grow up without your license. Like if you had to get anywhere, even to school, you had to drive everywhere. So I always had a car. And when I left home, I had a car for a hot second. It was 2 years I was able to keep a car, and then I lost my car at 18. And it was the first time I was living in Ashland, Oregon. I was homeless at the time, living in Lithia Park, doing hair wraps for $1 an inch and smoking weed with so many great people. And I met this guy who was like, let's hitchhike up to Eugene, Oregon, pick up some mushrooms and go back. And I was like, I've never hitchhiked before. And this kid who's been on the streets probably since he was 7 was like, you've never hitchhiked before? I'm like, no, I think I was 18 at the time. He's like, you've never hitchhiked. And I was like, no, I've never hitchhiked. And my parents told me it was extremely dangerous. You call someone that you know with a car and then they'll come get you at any time in the middle of the night. Like, how dare you? And this guy was just like, oh my gosh, get on the road. And I could not stop smiling. I could not stop smiling. I felt probably the most free I've ever felt in my entire life because I did not have to park my car, I didn't have to go back to my car, I didn't have to worry about if I had a license or not. I was just so free. And we did hitchhike to Oregon. And I actually had a fun couple years of some random hitchhiking here and there. All turned out really well for me. And I still pick up hitchhikers today if I get the right vibe. And
Aw.
Raven hates it. Raven hates that I pick up hitchhikers. But I feel like I can tell. I feel like I can tell, and I'm very judgmental in my process. It's not great, but if it looks like a traveler, I pick them up.
Mom ruined me for that because she was a cop and she had all these true crime novels, and at
Oh.
least 3 of them were about awful things that happened to either people who picked up hitchhikers or to the hitchhikers.
Yeah, it's true. I think it is risky and scary, absolutely. But I still do pick up hitchhikers, and it's funny. I have this new puppy in my life named Nova. She's a year and a half now.
I love that dog so much.
Just like Anubis, but with cattle legs. I mean, she's so special. She's so fun. And I've been without a dog because of my life for so long. And now I was like, oh my gosh, during the pandemic, I lost my career. Perhaps this is the time. So I get this dog, and Nova's like, she's just a road dog. She travels, she does the Jeep, she loves motorcycles. She's so fun, very adventurous. But just a couple months ago, there's this woman standing on the side of the road. I can tell that they're not doing mentally well. I shouldn't say a woman. There's a human on the side of the road. I could tell that they're not doing mentally well. And they looked in a vulnerable space. And so I pulled over to pick up this human, and they were really probably drunk. I could smell alcohol, but also not mentally doing well. And I put them in the back of the seat with Nova, and Nova was like side eyeing me the whole time, like my mom. And it was so funny. And then this human fell in love with Nova's feet, like really was tripping on Nova's feet. It was like the cutest feet that they've ever seen in their entire life, and kept taking their feet and like kissing Nova's little
Aw.
toenails and everything. And the whole time Nova was just looking at me with these big wide eyes like, this better work out okay. Like, are you kidding me? Why is this person in the back seat? But I had a lot of stuff in the front seat, so they had to sit in the back with Nova. But
Did
it
she
was
have seal ears?
she has all the ears.
But did she have seal ears for that moment?
Oh, yeah, during the interaction, yes. The ears were back, the eyes were
Yeah.
wide, and she was literally looking at me like my mom. It was so great, but turns out the lady just really, or the human just really, really loved on their toenails, and, we took them to the exit that they were going to, and it was all just fine, but it was hysterical because there was a lot of judgment coming from Nova.
It
But
just
it was
makes my life every time you post pictures of her.
oh, I'm so in love with her. I'm so in love with her. And I have major dog trauma. I had a best friend when I was homeless named Itzum. He was very special to me, and he was tragically killed when he was 5 years old. And I was so traumatized. But I slept with this dead dog for 2 days before people could remove it from my arms. Then I buried him. Then I dug him back up. Then I stole all his bones, and I still have his head on my wall right now. And
Oh,
I was like, there'll never be another dog in my life. Like I just can't lose that again. It was just too heartbreaking for me. And so this is the first dog that I have
oh my
had
gosh.
25 years.
And she's so great.
She's so great. And I am like having all of these. It's so interesting. I really am not an anxious person. I'm not a paranoid person. I have no anxiety. I have probably the least anxiety of anybody that I know. I could use a tiny bit more anxiety in my life, but I am constantly afraid that Nova's going to die.
Yeah.
I'm constantly afraid that Nova is going to die. It's so interesting. But I was like, oh wow, this dog really got me. I don't have a lot of that anxious energy around like, oh, people in my life, they're going to die. Like I know that everything I love is going to die. I'm ready for my parents to die. I'm ready for my family to die. Like I know that this is going to happen, and I feel like I'm ready to like handle these deaths. But Nova, I'm like, oh man, she ate something off the Home Depot floor yesterday. I just couldn't catch it in time. I don't know what it
Freaking dogs.
I don't know what it was, and I'm like, "She's gonna die. She's probably gonna have some sort
Aw.
of attack. She's gonna start frothing in the mouth." I don't know what it was. She's fine today. It's fine. She pooped. She's fine. But yeah, I got a little bit of dog trauma I'm dealing with.
Dogs are so ridiculous.
She's ridiculous. I love her so much. She is my best friend right now. I have this new town. I have no friends, and she is definitely like my buddy.
Well, I love her.
Thanks.
Thinking back to when you were new at spiritual crafting, what is something that you wish someone would have told you about it?
I really wish that somebody would have told me not to look at books for at least 5 years. I'm like the anti-researcher. You know, when people like sit down in the back room and they like read all the books before the thing? I do not thrive that way. I wish I would have experienced, I wish I would have used it as a real craft. And I think that was the disservice for the books for me, is that I actually wasn't crafting. I was regurgitating. And this is where all this cultural appropriation comes in for me, because I was regurgitating information that I didn't know where it came from. It didn't have the context. And I wish I actually would have crafted first. And then now it's time for me to go and read some of these books. But the most authentic spiritual crafts that I have, I found myself. And that's where, if you can trace the authenticity of your journey, that's where I think the appreciation and the knowledge comes from, and not the appropriation. But instead, I opened these fucking books first, and I went out and I bought the white sage, and I bought the
Yup.
Palo Santo, and I didn't know. I didn't know. And I trusted too much into a practice that has high levels of appropriation and colonization. And I wish I would have never opened those books. I wish the first spiritual crafter that I met would have said, don't open those books. Give yourself 5 to 7 years.
Oh, this isn't on the list, but do you have a daily practice?
No, I don't have a daily practice right now. It's definitely ever changing, um spiritually, my crap. But right now, like I said, you're catching me at a really weird time. Pre 2 years ago, I would have told you exactly what my daily practice is. But now, joining all of these spiritual cultural appropriation groups on social media, I'm just like, holy shit. Holy shit. I am such a chaotic appropriator in all of my practices, from my tattoos to my dance practice to my spiritual practice, like all of these crafts. I'm having to assess. So right now in this moment, I have no daily practice. I would say that the only practice that I am doing daily, being fully transparent, is medicinal plant practice, and that includes marijuana and microdosing mushrooms. And that has been my daily practice. I'm hoping to get back to a daily practice for sure, but I think I need to reassess what it looks like and make sure that it's really speaking to my evolution and not my regression.
Hmm.
I want to be something new. I need to recreate how I feel about spiritual crafting. Mostly so it's okay. I wanna keep it, Kim, I wanna keep it. I want my dance practice, I want my spiritual practice, I want my tattoos, I want all of these things so bad, but I have to know that it's truly mine and it's truly from me, and I'm truly crafting and not regurgitating. So I'm having to put things together completely different right now.
Here's something else not on the list or on anybody's list because I only just thought of it.
Yes.
How do you feel about looking back, like going back, like in your ancestry, finding out where your ancestors are from and picking from that?
Yeah, so interesting. I just did my first genealogy test. My dad is adopted, and my mom, as my mom says, my mom is Dutch. And I'm like, Mom, that's a nationality. It's not a bloodline. She's like, No, we're Dutch. But we don't know anything about Holland. We haven't been to Holland in a few generations, and my dad has no idea. And both my
You
parents.
haven't been to Amsterdam?
Oh, I've been to Amsterdam, but I haven't like lived. I've taught workshops in Amsterdam. You know what I mean? Like I haven't went back to like experience my ancestors and where they are from
Okay,
Holland.
because
So
I was gonna say of all
I
people,
feel just
I would expect you to have been there.
yes, I have been there, but I would say I'm connected to Tokyo just as much as I am connected to
That
Amsterdam
makes sense.
because I love sushi. Because I love weed. But my parents could give a shit about genealogy. They're in their 70s.
Really?
Yeah, they really don't care. My dad told me so. I told my dad, Dad, I'm going to do a genealogy test. And my dad said, You know, you're still going to be white, right? I said, Yeah, Dad, I do. I do. I know I'm still going to be white when I take my genealogy test. Thank you. And my parents are definitely from the all lives matter walk of life.
Oh,
It's been a challenge, but it's also been very rewarding having some amazing conversations with them, and they are able to hear things. But my dad had a brutal childhood. He was given up at 5 years old. He lived from 5 to 13 in orphanages is in the 1950s. And it was really brutal. And my dad cannot see himself as a privileged person.
yeah, I was gonna say that word has so many
Yeah,
implications that people like my mom's age and
yeah,
even my own husband have trouble
yeah.
understanding what it fully means.
Exactly. So we've had some amazing conversations. My parents are really wonderfully hearted people. It just takes them a while to arrive, and they just don't care about genealogy. So I took this test, and I am actually 97% that white girl. 97% that white girl. It is the things that all the white people say. It's French, Italian, German, and Scandinavian. And then I have this 3%, 1.5% Vietnamese, and
Huh,
1.5% Bengali from India. So
huh.
probably the Scandinavian, they say, was around that, but I am 97% white, white, white. And my dad does not know his family. My mom does have, so when I tell my mom German, French, Italian, whatever. She says, Well, where's the Dutch? I thought we were Dutch. And I'm like, Mom, I keep telling you, you can't be American unless you're indigenous to the Americas. We can't be Dutch. Dutch wasn't a thing. We can't be Dutch. That's like saying we're, Canadian, but not because where's our bloodline from? So, anyways, it was hysterical because, and then I think of my older sister, and she was like, I thought we were Dutch. I'm like, we're not Dutch because we don't live in Holland. We're not Dutch. So
Oh my
I
gosh.
feel very estranged from ancestral work. And I'm glad you brought it up because the solo that I am about to prepare, I start on it next week, is an ancestral piece. And I'm hoping to I'm hoping to delve into some of my own ancestral work, but I don't know how to do that. I'm so lost when it comes to ancestral work because first I'm ashamed and I have to get past this shame of being white. And second, I don't have these stories that come down. So I don't know. I'm very American, like white American. I'm very white American. So I'm struggling with ancestral work, but I think this piece is going to be really good for me because I know there's powerful ancestors that are attached to my spirit. I just don't know how to find them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep running away, like the farthest away. I'm like, I want to study Manat dances. I want to study dances from India. I want to study. I'm like, you know what, Amy? Why don't you? That's those kind of things. And then moving to this indigenous land that I'm on right now, I'm like, why don't you study the dances of the indigenous peoples that you're standing on their land right now? Why are you going so far away? Why are you going so far away? So it's been very challenging for me, but I want to find some powerful ancestral work for myself.
Well, speaking of dance and ancestors, how do you combine your spiritual craft and dance?
Oh, yeah, so intertwined.
And has it changed from has it changed from the beginning till now?
Yes, absolutely. I think we've known each other long enough. Kim, did you know Harris-Bissy Dancecraft?
Nope.
I used to do a lot of live ritual work in dance, literally with a cauldron, with bread, huge rituals, very ritualistic. I want to call it kind of like a gothic belly dance if I can say such general terms. But I used to have a lot of ritual in my dance, and I actually think of dancers as spiritual practitioners. I think of dance as craft. We make sigils on the floor all day long. We have so much intention, so much manifestation. So I really don't see a lot of difference between dance and spiritual craft. I think it's so intertwined, but I do feel like there was a point in my dance career where I was really trying so hard to put it together, not realizing that it is all the same thing. So I did do a lot of working rituals in person, and now I don't have to make it so obvious. I used to wear those Maleficent horns and stand over the top of my cauldron with like bread and ask people to eat it. And everybody just stared at me with these big wide eyes because I was trying to do this like under a belly dance genre, like a Middle Eastern convention.
Oh.
Just too much. It was too much. But I really see myself as like the epitome of an appropriator in so many ways as I've grown up. I'm just like, oh, yep, I was that white girl. Oh, yep, I was that white girl too. Oh, yeah. So now I'm recognizing that I don't have to be so blatant because it's really diluting the work that is already happening. So every time I dance, it is a spiritual practice. It is a spiritual crafting session. I always have an intention, whether it's maintenance to transcending. There's always an intention in movement, even gassing up your car. We know this as movers. This is all dance. Everything that we're doing in this vessel is dance. So now I don't have to be so obvious about it. I just know that if I am using movement, I am crafting. There's no way around that.
What do you geek out about?
I'm not a geek.
What
I'm not
makes
a
you
geek.
excited though?
I have tried. It's so funny that you asked me that because I struggle with what makes me happy and I struggle with joy.
Really?
I do. And you wouldn't think that about me because,
No, I think of when I picture you in my head, you're super joyful.
yeah, I'm very friendly. I'm one of the friendliest people that I know. I'm a super friendly person because I was raised in church as the preacher's daughter. So I know how to greet a large crowd. I know how to bring energy up. I really know how to run a cult from the top to the bottom. I know how to run a cult. I've run
I'm not going to say I couldn't see
yeah,
it.
I've run numerous cults in my life. Some we know about, some we don't know about. But I don't know what brings me joy and happiness. There are things I like more than the other, but I don't laugh hysterically very often. I don't cry hysterically very often. I am very even in my emotion, So it's hard for me to tell. Like, I like motorcycles, but I'm not like driven. I like to ride my motorcycle, but I'm not like laughing hysterically about it. I like to dance. Somebody just asked me 2 weeks ago, they're like, "Do you dance for fun?" I was like, "I don't think so. I don't know what I find fun. I find rewards a lot, but I actually struggle with what I enjoy doing in my life."
And that brings me to a question that I wrote down while you were talking about something of half an hour ago that says, what's brought you the most joy?
Ah! This is less sad too. I think when I talk about it, my partner's always like, "Babe, you have so much joy." And I'm like, I'm not sad. It's just that I'm not sad and I'm not joy. And I'm not this and I'm really quite evenly spirited. And
What's made you feel elated?
um drugs. Drugs have
That's
made me
fair.
feel, yeah, drugs have made me feel elated, for sure. And sugar. Oh,
Oh
that's drugs.
gosh,
That's
sugar
drugs.
and friggin' bread.
Yeah, that's drugs for sure. I can light
God.
up. I can light up over a piece of cake. But I've really like I've they call it switching seats on the Titanic. That's kind of what I've done my whole life. I was like methamphetamines to cocaine. I just kind of switched over, and then cocaine switched to Adderall, Adderall switched to sugar, so it's like I'm always kind of battling, but I think drugs definitely make me feel elated. I definitely like psychedelics, but it's not like I get excited before. I just might have excitement during. I don't get excited to jump on my motorcycle, but I might find joy while I'm on my motorcycle. Clear Creek. I can say there's a creek that's really close to my house that brings me joy. And when I think about going to the creek, I don't know if it's joy that I feel, but I feel right. I feel right when I'm at the creek. I know that if I'm at the creek, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's
Oh,
all it's all right at the creek. Whether I'm hiking, skinny dipping, collecting rocks, whatever the tubing, I just fucking love this creek. And this creek is special. It's called Clear Creek if I didn't say it, but it saved the lives of hundreds of Wintu people. When the colonizers came in, they tried to push all of the Wintu, Pit River, Yana tribes west of Clear Creek, and the indigenous people were like, "Fuck off." So the colonizers held a huge feast, and they poisoned them.
of course they did.
Poisoned
Did
them.
they run out of smallpox blankets?
Exactly. And they poisoned them, hundreds of them, and a few hundred indigenous peoples escaped up Clear Creek, and they were not able to get to these people, and these people from there really thrived, like this area right here. And I think that's been huge for me, moving from Sacramento midtown in the city, where there was not a lot of land to stand on. When I came here, I really thought of the indigenous cultures as almost extinct. Like, I went to the museum. I lived on K Street. The Native American Museum is on K Street. I went to the Miwok. It's a museum where you can look at things, but I didn't realize I wasn't living amongst indigenous people. And when I moved here, I was like, holy shit. This is what we're addressing right here, is that this culture is alive and silenced right now. So this creek is so special, and I have feelings when I think about Clear Creek. It might be joy. I
That
don't
makes my heart hurt for you.
know. Like I said, it's not as sad as it seems. It's not as sad as it seems, because I can't remember the last time I laughed hysterically, but I also can't remember the last time that I cried hysterically. I was talking to my friend Shelly, Shelly, and Shelly's like, "Oh,"
Yeah.
I'm like, "When's the last time you cried?" And she's like, "Today. Today, Amy, today." I'm like, "I can't remember the last time I cried."
Really?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I cried. I'm sure it was maybe within the last year, maybe year and a half. I don't know. I might have fried all of my dopamines through drugs, and so I just don't have those extremes as a sober person. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I'm not a sober person, as the most sober I've ever been kind of person. But yeah, I don't have those highs and lows. But it's not as sad as it sounds.
It does sound really sad, especially when you say it doesn't when you say that, it makes it even worse.
Joy. I don't know what brings me joy. I really don't know what brings me joy.
Nova, I would think.
Yeah, but joy, that also brings me all sorts of other things.
Yeah, terror.
Yeah, and responsibility and exhaustion and yeah, it's interesting. But I do have a lot of feelings about this creek.
That kind of reminds me, we're going to go on a journey.
Right.
It reminds me of here. We live on To'ona O'odham land. And it's only vaguely related, even to what you were talking about. But when you were talking about the culture, I almost never leave my house unless I'm going to my job. And then I go to my job, maybe to the gym, and then I come home.
Yeah.
So, and like COVID happened basically a year after we moved. So I haven't experienced shit. Except that there's something here. And it's not human. It wasn't human, I don't think.
Uh-huh.
And I want to ask someone who is from here, like a Tohono person, about it. But one, I don't know how to find them, and two, how do you ask that question?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've tried researching their like folklore and history and things, and I don't find anything that matches what this thing does. But
Wow.
I don't know. Just a little random story of nothing.
Yeah. I can encourage you to go be uncomfortable with these people. I got a really good schooling from Serena Spears, actually. I came back from Brazil and there was a lot of ancestral work that I was doing with this woman named Rosangela Silvestri. And Rosangela is a high priestess of the Orisha religion. And we did all sorts of amazing ancestor work that I had a really hard time with, especially in Brazil. And when I came back here, I was really like, I need to highlight Indigenous voices. I need to highlight. So I was looking for I was in Sacramento at the time, so I was looking for like the Miwok people, and I wanted to find a dance troupe, do a show, bring them in for workshops that were appropriate, highlight them in the show, give them all this whatever. And I was telling Serena Spears about my idea, and she was like, Amy, I don't mean to shit on your idea, but she was like, this is the most colonialist thing I've heard in a long time.
Oh,
She's like, you want to bring these people in to do your show, to do the workshops that you want, to highlight them like ooh, look, here's the whatever,
oh yeah.
the show. And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I just don't think you can just show up on the reservation. And she's like, why don't you fucking find out? Why don't you be uncomfortable? Why don't you drive into the reservation and just say hi? Because this is what they have to do every time they walk into your studio. Every time they walk down K Street, every time they walk into a fucking Safeway, she's like, why don't you go find out? Why don't you find out if that's appropriate? Just show up. And I'm like, well, I'd be so uncomfortable. And she's like, wow,
Oh well, poor me.
wow.
Huh.
Yeah. You don't
Huh.
do it because you'd be uncomfortable and you expect them to come into your white dance studio and be super comfortable. They don't know what they're walking into. And I was just like, oh, yes, absolutely. So I think in these when we want to know, like we Google where these tribes are at in their life right now, where they feel safe, and we show up uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Drive up to this. I went to the bear dance recently. I didn't know if I could go to the bear dance because it was by invitation only. But Jack Potter, who is a Wintu man who I've been speaking with about the word tribal a lot in the last 2 years, he said, yes, you can come to the bear dance. And when I showed up at the bear dance, I was definitely one of the only outsiders there. And I was very uncomfortable and they let me stay. And that was amazing. But I didn't really think about it that. I really always want to make it I always want to put it in the box that I already know. So find out what that next event is and just show up, Kim. And if they ask you to
I
leave,
have to wait till after COVID though.
you do. Yes. Yes. You do.
Actually, this is relevant because my husband Ken, he's getting really into motorcycles again.
Ooh.
His thing is the Indian motorcycles.
Oh,
He
I
loves the
love
Indians.
Indian. Is he looking at the chief or the scout?
I think it's the chief.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a motorcycle person. I just know I like bobbers.
Yes.
That's all I know.
Yes.
But I was like, and he wanted to, he does CAD work sometimes because he went to, to GIA in San Diego for CAD and jewelry. And he said, yeah, I kind of want to make plates with the Indian chief head.
Oh,
And I said, I don't know if you should do that.
I'm on that same page with you.
And he has talked to different people. He has friends who are Native American. I don't even know if that's the right term because it seems like it changes and I can't keep up.
Yes.
And I said, well, and you could go ask. So if he goes to ask, I'm going to go with him and I'll ask my question and he can ask his.
Yeah.
And we'll go say, look, this is what we're asking. What do you need from us? Can you help us? I guess.
Yeah. And remember that you won't get a solid answer. You have to make your own decisions in that way. Is he talking about making the actual logo from the Indian motorcycle?
I think so. Or like maybe a stylized version of it. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I see the fear from you for sure. I can feel that, but it is definitely a motorcycle brand. I think that the indigenous people are not going to give a fuck about his struggle of whether he should make the Indian head or not. I found that out a lot going to talk to a lot of indigenous people. They're like, this is a white man's problem. This is not my problem. And I'm not here to like give you the consent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not here to make you feel better.
Yeah, I'm not here to make you feel better. In the end, he's still going to have to make his own decision about it for sure. But is it a sick? Is it a sick plaque that goes on your motorcycle? That's
Yeah.
interesting for sure. That's interesting for sure. Um, yeah, that would be something that I would think about as well. But I also love motorcycles and I also love Indians. And if I found a beautiful plaque that went on my motorcycle that wasn't an indigenous piece, then I might be able to buy it from a white man.
Yeah, I just have to have my feelings and
Yeah.
figure them out.
Yeah. And I think it's always better to be it's not cautious, it's compassionate. It's always better to be compassionate first.
Yeah, I don't want to upset people just because I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to harm. I don't want to harm either. Like I said, I'm not a safe person for everybody in a lot of ways. I'm a very harmful person in a lot of ways, but I don't want to do it intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
Who would you say are the 3 biggest influences on your craft and your dance if you want to go into that?
Yeah, I think that right now my craft is my dance. And I would have to really recognize the Salimpour family. I live only an hour and a half from the Salimpour family. So
Oh, wow.
it's been an incredible imprint. It's been an incredible imprint on my dance and what I do. And Pepper Vaughn is an amazing motivational figure in Sacramento who's been in Sacramento for the past 55 plus years. And he's a motivational speaker. He's a trainer. He's a hip hop dancer, but he is a figure in our community that has been huge for me in my expression. And then I also would say that Tyra Calero, who is a ancient soul of a hula dancer, has also been a huge influence on me. And I think that those are my 3: Tyra Calero, Salimpour family, and Pepper Vaughn. And then if you work into a spiritual craft, I got to say Lady Luna from Loomis, California. If you ever get Lady Luna, this human is out there in all the best ways. All the best ways.
Well, that is my next question.
Oh, yeah.
Who would you like to hear me ask? Who would like to hear come tell stories on the show?
Okay, Lady Luna from Loomis, California. You can find Lady Luna on Facebook. It's a shop that she goes under on Facebook. It's like Lady Luna is something, but it's in Loomis, Loomis. Tell her that I sent you if you end up talking to her. She is witchy as fuck. Do you know Kelsey Covington?
I don't ever know anybody's name, but I
Kelsey
might know who they are.
Kumara. Kelsey Kumara on Facebook, Kumara, is a medium that I use. Kelsey talks to dead people as well as to the universe. And I freaking love this human. Like crazy things come through Kelsey. And Kelsey's like one of the ones that can just download messages from ancient things right away. I mean, it's really amazing. And then Danielle Hutton. Danielle Hutton is an amazing Black dancer slash witch for sure. I think identifies as a witch and tarot sorceress. Super magical. Also works a lot with sigils. Kelsey Kumara, Danielle Hutton, and Lady Luna.
Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask?
You know, I want to add a little bit of inspiration about local work. I think a lot of us right now are struggling with what we can do here in our homes as we're trying to protect our loved ones from disease, and the world is setting itself on fire. And I want people to never underestimate the power of local work. And what I mean by local is your neighbors, is the person crossing the street in front of you. And I think that it's important to meet our local community with kindness right now. We need to infiltrate from the inside with love and compassion. And I think that what we can't do in the world abroad, we can do for the people that we run into daily. It's easy to think that we can't do anything, but I do think we are the sum of many small things, and how we walk through our immediate world is the most important.
Wow.
And that's my solace right now. When I know I cannot heal Afghanistan, I know that there are many people standing around me that can use the same healing.
Yeah.
My little work matters.
That's going to make me cry.
Yeah, our little work matters. This work matters, Kim. Your work matters.
Well, I went for like 3 interviews without tears, so.
Well, the tears aren't coming from me because I don't know how to cry. So
Maybe I got all your emotions because I cry all the time.
take them. The only time I do tear up is when I talk about art. A lot of times when I talk about art, then I can feel it for sure.
I don't know if you feel like you already covered this, but there is something that I ask in other interviews that I hadn't come up with when I sent you the list. But is there anything that you wish more people were talking about?
I can't handle one more talk about right now.
Okay.
No, I don't think there's anything that's sitting. I do definitely feel full of everybody else's. We need to talk about this right now. My partner is an activist in drug stigma and drug users and stigma that follows around this, and then being in a community that has a lot of amazing BIPOC movers as well as MNOT movers. There's so much that I don't have anything as a white fusion American artist that I think needs to press further to the front than anyone else's right now.
Okay. I would like you to recommend something to my listeners. Anything at all.
Okay.
Zebra cakes was one recommendation at one point.
Zebra cakes, absolutely not. I do not recommend a zebra cake. I cannot.
Me neither. I don't like them.
I cannot recommend a zebra cake.
But just it doesn't have to be witchy, metaphysical. Doesn't matter. Anything.
I recommend. Okay, yeah. This is not something I would normally recommend. It's kind of new in my world, but I can recommend meal planning and meal prepping right now. This is the first time for me. I'm only on week 3, and I started meal prepping on Mondays, and I meal prep for 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner for Monday through Friday. It's actually Tuesday through Saturday for me right now. And I have been very conscious about the food that I'm picking up, the food that I'm consuming. I'm doing 6 ounces of lean meat, 1 cup of veggies, 3/4 cups of starch, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then I'm doing 2 snacks of a protein and a fruit, whether that's a banana and a protein shake, or that's like a handful of nuts and a peach. As long as they run together, no sugar without protein, no proteins without sugar as my snacks. And I've never meal prepped before. And this is actually freeing up so much time in my day. I'm a lot less frantic when I'm hungry because I have these meals and I'm not putting them in the microwave. I recommend putting them in a pan and either putting them in the oven and reheating them or reheating them on a stove with some delicious oil like an avocado or an olive oil. I've never meal prepped before and I absolutely recommend it. It's kind of changing the game for me.
I love those pictures when you post them.
Thanks.
I love meal prep pictures.
Some people, I've always been like dead set against the meal prep. I'm just like, give me a break. But I'm renting a commercial kitchen on Monday evenings with my sister, and I can still fuck off during the week if I want to have a zebra cake. I can.
Why
But
would you?
I do like the baked goods for sure, but I like those fancy, decadent baked goods more than I like a zebra cake. But I understand sugar is sugar, and that lights up our brain too. But I really do recommend trying out meal prepping to see if it's the best thing for you. It's pretty amazing.
Last question. It's not even a question. Please tell me a story that you love to tell.
I usually go for shock value. I think it's because I'm a preacher's kid, so I like to tell really, like inappropriate stories at the wrong time. You know what I mean? And people are just like, oh my. One of my favorite stories to tell is that for the first year of Raven and I's relationship, I pissed in her dinner every night. And I just told this to Raven's dad recently. Had to walk away from me. I was like, why do you tell this story? I said, I don't know. I think it's just shock value. I think I just literally it's like something that comes into me. I want to do this like really inappropriate thing. But for the first year, every time I made Raven's dinner, I would piss in it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to that.
So I really love to tell that story, especially because I don't know how I haven't really done that in a lot of other relationships. I do have a lot of kinks that I love. I'm not a vanilla sort of person in the bedroom, but I have only pissed in one person's dinner consecutively.
Oh, that's actually kind of romantic.
It was romantic. I actually didn't tell them for a year either. So it was very non-consensual as well. Yeah. In which when I finally did reveal that I had been pissing in Raven's dinner, they handled it very well.
Well, I mean, they're still around, so.
Yeah, they handled it very well. But I do get blamed a lot if there's obsession or anything like that. Then Raven's like, you pissed in my dinner for a year, right? Like, oh yeah, that's why. That's why. Yeah. So that's a fun one to tell to family.
To family, no less.
It's a good time.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This was really fun.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I feel so honored, and like I said, I'm so happy to do this right now because it's just good for me to talk about a spiritual craft right now because I just don't know where I am.
It's going to provide. I think it's going to make for some really interesting conversations everywhere else.
Yes, and I need that right now. I really need that. I need to find out what is truly authentic to me, and maybe it is the rebellion that is truly authentic to me, and that's where I find my most spiritual self. And maybe it's not, and it's time to find out the difference. Oh, wow. So we'll see what unfolds.
Yeah.
Kim, do you consider yourself a witch?
I do.
You do.
I don't know that I agree with the textbook definition.
Yeah.
I mean, saying woman is kind of a lot.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it either. But am I comfortable in this body with this vagina and these tits?
If it said person, would you make if it says person, then yeah, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Except for the pointy shoes, because I'm not fucking up my feet any more than they are.
But I will take the pointy hat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will take the-
Whatever.
So is it still warlock? Is that still a male witch?
No, warlock actually means it's something negative, like somebody who betrayed your coven or
Oh
something.
goodness. What's a
Men are witches. Men are witches. People are witches. Just people are witches. Whoever says they're a witch is a witch.
Oh. And
At least that's how I define it. And most of my friends that I've talked to, that's how they define it.
would
People
would you describe like a witch? Do you think that's why I think it's just so ambiguous right now? Like, is a witch Wiccan, or is a
No,
witch mean anti-Christianity, or is a witch just someone
neither.
who works with earth magic?
Okay, for me personally, first I have to define witchcraft, and that is using your intent and the energy that is produced in your brain to move other energy around. Everything in the universe is made of energy, and we just ask it to do what we want. And that's witchcraft.
Mm.
And a person who does witchcraft is a witch. At least in my definition of it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. I feel you on that.
That's why when I asked you and you said no, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, yeah. That's why I think I don't know if it's. I don't think of it. I think of people put it with Wicca so much, and
Wicca's a religion. That's totally different.
yeah, totally different. Totally different. Yeah, I need to take a look. But do I love the word witch? Yes, I do. It's kind of like the term belly dance for me. Like, when you're talking to someone who can't quite understand, and then you're just like, witchcraft. And it's like, oh, I had a person come over, look at the sigils on the fence and say, is that witchcraft? And I said, yes. Just
Did
like,
their
yeah.
eyebrows go up?
Yeah, they did. And actually I held a dance class in the temple, and one woman said that they couldn't come back to my dance class because of the witchcraft that was in the backyard. And it was
All
this.
right.
And I said, they didn't even ask me what they meant. I mean, this is some really beautiful fucking witchcraft, But I think, yes, when people are like, are those sigils witchcraft? It's like, if you're not into sigil work, then it's like, yes, it is.
What if you are into sigil work?
Would I call sigil work witchcraft? I think sigil work
I
might.
don't do sigil. I can't explain what I do, but most of the stuff I hear people talking about, I don't do. So I don't relate
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, it's kind of all over the place right now. But it's good to look at. But I don't think that if you do sigil work, that is necessarily always in the witchcraft realm, because I know a lot of doodlers, but this is where it's like, it's all spiritual craft. It's all spiritual craft.
Okay, yeah.
They're like, I don't dance. And I'm like, yes, you do. Yes, you do. Did you coordinate yourself to get on the top of the whatever to hang that picture? Like, there's so much in that. So if people are like doodling, I'm like, oh, that's sigil magic right there. You just doodled the same thing over and over and over again while you were talking with that apartment complex that you wanted. Like, what do you think you're doing? Sigil work.
Why are you making me think so hard?
No. So it's like, I'm just having a hard time distinguishing what's like this natural magic of humans, and actually we're not humans, but the magic that we have is as while we're human, but or is this something different, or do we all have this? We just don't talk about it.
I think we do all have it.
We all have it. We all have
I think
we're
we
all
do.
doing it. We're all doing it.
To me, that's witchcraft.
Yeah,
They call it something else, but that's what it is.
yeah, and this is where I have to get rid of some of that rebellion and some of that. I have a real distaste for Christianity.
Me too.
Yeah, and
Me too.
it's not fair in a lot of ways. In some ways it's so colonial that I'm just like, get over yourself. This religion just fucking kills me. But I don't think it's healthy. This town that I live in, Redding, California, there's a cult here of 10,000 members plus. and it's a supernatural Christian cult called Bethel. There's one leader. It's very empowered, and I'm having a really hard time. Sometimes even seeing someone with a cross around their neck makes me immediately dismiss them.
Me too.
And I'm so horrible about it. But yeah, it's like my sister, who is a Christian, went to a dance church of mine, and we got real witchy in our dance church, and it was amazing. And we were like calling up the ancestors and doing all sorts of fun stuff. And she was like, "This is the same thing. I don't understand. You're doing the same work that your father is doing."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, "No, I'm not." No, I'm not. But this is where I need to really like start deconstructing this for myself and know like what's rebellion, what's an authentic past for me. Why do I hate Christianity?
What's trauma? What
Yeah.
is our trauma reaction to
Yeah.
how we got treated by people who said they were Christian?
Yeah. And I just can't stand what Christianity has done to the indigenous religions. It makes me angry. I don't like mission work. If a religion
Oh, that infuriates me.
Yeah, if a religion has a strong mission work ethic, I don't like it automatically. I'm like, you 20-year-old person flying over to the indigenous country of Peru and talking to these people and telling them that they're going to hell. I don't like it a bit.
Nope.
I don't like your path one bit. So yeah, I have a hard time with mission work 100%. And I have a hard time with what Christianity has done to indigenous religions. And I'm mad that I don't get to experience those indigenous religions.
I'm just tired of organized religion as a whole.
Yeah.
Christianity's easy because I grew up with it and it's close by, so I can poke it with a stick.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. That's what it is. Hey, Nova.
Hey, baby!
Oh, it's just the neighbors, and they get to live their life too, just like you do.
I have to say that so often.
Yeah. She thinks everything is a bomb. She's part Doberman, so she's got some suspicion. Oh.
My dog Crow, who really reminds me of Nova,
Oh.
is like 20. We did his DNA because I'm obsessed. He's half Great Dane, like 25% German Shepherd and Lab and something else. But I think the German Shepherd makes him really wired about strangers.
Yeah, she's always like, it's a bomb. What's that? It's a bomb.
Something bad's gonna happen. I have to tell you about it.
Yeah, she's got that suspicion too. She's got the lab people pleaser, and she's got the collie herding mentality, and then she's got a little suspicion on the side.
I just love lanky, pointy dogs.
She is a lanky, pointy dog. A lot of leg. It's a lot of leg.
And thank you again for coming on the show. It's been super fun, and my brain has been blown open.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you. I appreciate you including me. This has been the only witchy community thing I've done in a really long time.
Oh, well, I'm amazed that you said yes, honestly.
Oh, that was easy.
But thank you, and I will see you on Instagram.
All right. That sounds great. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Your Average Witch. You can find us all around the internet on Instagram at Your Average Witch Podcast, Twitter at Average Witch Pod, Facebook at facebook.com/Your Average Witch Podcast.
Wired about strangers.
Yeah, she's always like, it's a bomb. What's that? It's a bomb.
Something bad's gonna happen. I have to tell you about it.
Yeah, she's got that suspicion too. She's got the lab people pleaser, and she's got the collie herding mentality, and then she's got a little suspicion on the side.
I just love lanky, pointy dogs.
She is a lanky, pointy dog. A lot of leg. It's a lot of leg.
And thank you again for coming on the show. It's been super fun, and my brain has been blown open.
Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you. I appreciate you including me. This has been the only witchy community thing I've done in a really long time.
Oh, well, I'm amazed that you said yes, honestly.
Oh, that was easy.
But thank you, and I will see you on Instagram.
All right. That sounds great. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Your Average Witch. You can find us all around the internet on Instagram at Your Average Witch Podcast, Twitter at Average Witch Pod, Facebook at facebook.com/Your Average Witch Podcast, at YourAverageWitchPodcast.com, and at your favorite podcast service. Want to help the podcast grow? Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You just might hear your review read at the end of the next episode. If you'd like to recommend someone for the podcast, like to be on it yourself, or if you'd like to advertise on the podcast, send an email to YourAverageWitchPodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you when the moon changes.